Good morning, scholars, and welcome back to Learning with Mrs. Prevey. Today's learning goal, today we are working on a new nation, lesson 10, building a nation with words and ideas. And today's learning goal is I can describe an illustration of Monticello and use pictures and details in building a nation with words and ideas to describe the read aloud's key ideas. Yesterday we learned more about Benjamin Franklin. We learned that he wrote this almanac. If I remember correctly, some of the things he put into his almanac were stories and poems, puzzles, jokes, lots of advice, and many wise sayings. Let's see, how can we describe Benjamin Franklin? Well, Franklin was wise. He was an inventor, a painter, founding father, representative of the colonies. Let's see, he was a writer. He was daring and brave. I mean, this was so dangerous. He was very brave. And he was very well liked. Okay. Some of the things that Benjamin Franklin, we looked at some of the things he invented. He invented these swimming fins or flippers that we use today. They're not wooden anymore, but he also invented bifocals. He invented the Franklin stove, the lightning rod, and even the rocking chair. He invented a lot of things. So I can know that Benjamin was well liked because he had one of the biggest funerals that were ever attended at the time. People rang bells and flags flew at half mast to show signs of respect. So that all helps us to know how well liked Benjamin Franklin was. In today's read aloud, you're going to learn more about another one of our founding fathers called Thomas Jefferson. Let's see, what can I think about what I can remember about Thomas Jefferson? He was with Franklin and Washington at important meetings in Philadelphia. I can remember that. Jefferson was also the author of the Declaration of Independence. That part I can remember. Although Thomas Jefferson is remembered as the author of the Declaration of Independence, he's also remembered for other reasons. Listen carefully to learn about Thomas Jefferson's contributions. Here he is. Benjamin Franklin enjoyed the company of another patriot, Thomas Jefferson from Virginia. Jefferson was often the youngest person in the room when the founders met in Philadelphia, whereas Franklin was often the oldest. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson was always ready to serve his country, but the place he liked most to be at was his home with his family. What saying did you learn that Jefferson might have used when talking about his home? There's no place like home. Yep. Here we go. This is a picture of Monticello. This is Thomas Jefferson's home, his favorite place to spend time. When Thomas Jefferson was a young lawyer, he started building a house close to the farm where he grew up in Virginia. Built on a hill, he named it Monticello, which means little mountain in Italy, or in Italian. He worked on it for many years before, during, and after the war. This image shows what it looks like today. Jefferson traveled in Europe and brought back many ideas from France and Italy. Because of Monticello and some other buildings he designed, Jefferson is called the father of American architecture. Architecture refers to the design of the building, or the way that buildings look. In fact, Jefferson was one of the people who worked on the design of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson liked to invent things for his house He invented a pulley system that opened doors and a mechanical clock that kept track of the days of the week. He also invented a dumbwaiter or shelf that could be piled high with food dishes raised from the kitchen downstairs up to the dining room, then lowered back down with empty dishes when the meal was over. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most important writers in the colonies. Remember, he was the author of the Declaration of Independence. Because he wrote so many important papers and letters, he wanted to be able to make copies of them for himself. So Jefferson invented the first copy machine. As he wrote at his desk, a pen was automatically writing the same thing right beside him. Jefferson could write a letter with his hand here, and while he was doing it, without even going to a copy machine, this pencil would be writing the same thing. This is a picture of a modern day of Jefferson's invention, and his would not have used writing tools like the pencil in this image. So this isn't the actual one that he used, but it would have been something very similar to it. After the Constitutional Convention and the election of George Washington as the country's first president, Thomas Jefferson returned to Virginia to work on Monticello. When he was not at Monticello, he was off representing his country, sharing his ideas both in America and in Europe. George Washington served as the President of the United States for 8 years. When he retired to Mount Vernon, another of the founding fathers named John Adams took his place, becoming America's second president. Thomas Jefferson became John Adams's vice president. A vice president is someone who is second in command to the president. 4 years later, Thomas Jefferson became our nation's third president. In 8 years that he was president, he did many things to help the young nation grow. So here's George Washington, and John Adams, and then Thomas Jefferson. Okay. One of the things that Thomas Jefferson believed in most was public education. He realized how fortunate he had been having the chance to attend excellent schools all his life. But he knew that not everybody could afford to do so. Perhaps Jefferson's greatest project was planning for a public college in his state of Virginia. He designed the building, chose the subjects to be taught, and raised money to build the University of Virginia. A public school is one that is founded or paid for with people's tax money. A college or university is a place to continue studying after high school. Do you notice some similarities between this and Jefferson's home right up here? Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. You know, the pillars, the bricks, they're very similar. Okay. The university was built on a friend's farm just down the hill from Monticello so that Jefferson can watch it being built. Thomas Jefferson died on the afternoon of July 4th, 1826, just hours before the death of his friend John Adams. The second and third president of the United States of America died on the 50th anniversary of Independence Day. an anniversary is celebrated every year, like your birthday. Your birthday is the anniversary of your birth. So Jefferson died 50 years to the day after signing the Declaration of Independence. I did not know that. Like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson is remembered in many ways today. Some of our nickels or 5-cent coins, right here, I have a picture of Jefferson on one side of them and a picture of the domed building on the other. Can you guess what building this is? Right, it's his beloved Monticello, and it even says Monticello right there. Okay, so what important job did Thomas Jefferson have that George Washington had some years before him? He was president of the United States. Jefferson he was called the father of American architecture. So what did he design? Here. Right. He did help to design Washington, D.C. He designed his home in Monticello. And he designed a university, the University of Virginia. Right there it is. You learned that both George Washington and Thomas Jefferson are pictured on some United States money. Do you think that money is a good place to put the faces of people we want to remember? Why or why not? I think it is. I think it gives them, when coins are circulated, you can look at that nickel and go, wow, there's Thomas Jefferson right there. Or quarter and think, well, there's George Washington. Okay. Describe one of Thomas Jefferson's inventions. So he made a dumbwaiter, a pulley system for doors, copy machines, lap desk, mechanical clocks. Well, he made a lot of things. Why was public or free education important to Thomas Jefferson? He thought that education was very important, and he wanted to make sure everyone was able to have a good education regardless as to how much money they had. In the read aloud, you heard the second and third presidents of the United States of America died on the 50th anniversary of Independence Day. Say the word anniversary. An anniversary is an important date that you remember on the same day each year. My parents went out to dinner last night to celebrate their wedding anniversary. Think of an anniversary, a date that you or a friend remembers in some way every year on the same day. Try to use the word anniversary when you tell about it. So, for example, you might want to say, today is the second anniversary of the day we got our dog. That means you got your dog 2 years ago on the same day. So go ahead and pause the video. Make sure you use a complete sentence and tell somebody about an anniversary. Did you pause the video and talk about it? What word were we talking about? Oh, right, anniversary. So most anniversaries are celebrated by only a few people for whom the anniversary is important. But an anniversary of our country's birth, the 4th of July, is celebrated by all people across the nation. How do you celebrate this anniversary? I want you to go ahead and draw a picture of how you celebrate the 4th of July, the anniversary of the birth of our nation, and write a couple of sentences on that picture about how you're celebrating the anniversary and upload a copy of that to me on Dojo. Today's learning goal is let's try that again. Today's learning goal was I can describe an illustration of Monticello and use pictures and details in building a nation with words and ideas to describe the read aloud's key ideas. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow when we read liberty and justice for all. Until then, have a great day.